Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. And another best of the week edition, starting with Fabio Wardley, who does have a WBA order to face Kubrat Pulev. TBC on whether that fight is actually made. But Wardley is targeting a title fight at Ipswich Town, Portman Road, and has Kubrat Pulev, Jarrell Miller on his shortlist, and this is according to Sky Sports, as you can see. So, talking to Fabio Wardley, Sky had asked him some questions. He says he's got the WBA regular title that Daniel Dubois had fairly recently, and look at the kind of trajectory he's been off on the back of it. He's in the mix of names that we're stirring the pot with, although I've had my good British level fights, and the middling level kind of, some people may do a little bit of European and then jump to the kind of world level, but I feel like I'm ready to jump to that world level. That was a long way of saying jumping to world level. He continues, I feel like Kubrat Pulev being a world champion with the WBA that he is, I feel like that's a test I'm more than happy to take on. So Pulev is one of the men in the top spot. There's Pulev, there's Miller, there's Anderson, there's Michael Hunter. And actually, Pulev is part of the WBA order, and so too Michael Hunter. But I guess we'll have to see where all that goes, because if Wardley is talking that potentially other names, maybe that means that the signals for that fight to get made not so good. But I'm sure, just like a lot of other UK fighters wanting to have a big fight at a football venue, that Wardley would love to have it at his home club's ground. So we'll have to see what happens there. But is his name big enough in the UK for that to occur at this point and really draw the sort of crowd that might make it worthwhile? Let me know. I'm not so convinced at this point. I think he's still one or two big fights away, or fights away from the so-called big time, as it were. At the moment, Pulev has that regular title, but Wardley is certainly going in the right direction. Filip Hrgovic has reflected on his loss to Daniel Dubois in a podcast, and he's been pretty honest about things. And as we know, he's been away for most of the past year since that loss to Daniel Dubois, and Dubois has gone on to obviously have some big fights, knocking out Anthony Joshua at the end of 2024, holds the IBF title. So he says, I lost my energy around 5 or 6 rounds, could hardly see his punches coming from the second round, had 2 deep cuts, and they affected my vision, my focus, and gave him confidence to push me. Tactically, I made a mistake giving him too much space to move forward, should have pressed him more to go backwards, needed to block his jab and move my head more. I was too confident that one big right would land and he'd go down. And this is one of the things I've been saying forever and a day. Filip Hrgovic has gone away so much from what made him a very good amateur, fallen in love with the right hand, and he's tried to act accordingly as a power puncher in the pros, to his detriment, and he has regressed. Anyway, he says Joshua made the same mistake by letting him come forward, trying to catch him with counters. We both did the same. And he's got this fight at short notice, or relatively short notice, with Joe Joyce, saying, I feel great. I'm only 32. That's not old for a heavyweight. Have at least 5 more years left at a high level and want to come back to the top. I think there's hope. Also notes recently moved to Abel Sanchez, now training at Big Bear. Moving on, Matchroom has signed Lenier Pero, the Cuban heavyweight, and this is a co-promotional agreement with BoxLab Promotions. So of this link up for the 11-0 heavyweight, you've got Matchroom's Eddie Hearn saying, we're delighted to welcome Lenier to the Matchroom team. The heavyweight division is always evolving, and Lenier has the tools to become a real contender. We're excited to be working with Amuri and BoxLab team on Lenier's progression, and we'll be looking for him to make a big impression on the division this year. You've got Pero himself saying, I'm excited to take this next step in my career with Matchroom and BoxLab Promotions as my co-promoters. Together, we'll bring my journey to the world stage, and I'm ready to show everyone why I'm an undefeated force in the heavyweight division. The time is now to take my career to the next level. And some of you might recall that he did feature on a few PBC shows a few years back, around 2022, 2023. Had the good fight with Victor Vickhurst, ended up winning that one. But because he was with PBC on their cards, he was fighting infrequently. He's been pro for some considerable time now, only the 11 fights. So hopefully Matchroom can get him onto some cards and keep him busy, keep him active, and bring him along, because he is ready to take bigger and tougher steps in his career, but he obviously hasn't had the opportunities to do so. So hopefully Matchroom, who does not have a lot of depth in their heavyweight stocks, is able to help progress his career some way, shape, or form. From one current Matchroom fighter who's just signed on to one who was with Matchroom for some time but now not. Dillian Whyte, who was meant to face Joe Joyce but sustained a hand injury, a cut to a finger. He is set to return later this year, according to Mike Ofo of Platform Sports, saying he, while training, had an incident with a weight and nearly cut his finger right open. You can actually see it to the bone. It's quite brutal. It's almost like a clash, and his finger got caught between it. He wanted to carry on fighting, but sometimes you've got to save these warriors from themselves and let him compete when he's 100%. He needs a couple more weeks, and once those couple more weeks are over, he should be able to get back into training. At the moment, things like putting his hand in a glove is not possible, so he's just ticking over until he's able to start punching. Another 2 months, Dill will be back in fighting shape. He's already looking slimmer and trim, ready to go off on the back of his win over Tete. It's not going to be a long delay. Dill's going to be ready and back in action. He was devastated. The warrior in him hit it, but the team, we have a duty of care, ethics that we need to maintain for the safety of our fighter. And I actually think that was a tough fight for Whyte, and I think Joyce probably would have beaten him, but I guess we'll never know unless they reschedule it. What is going to happen now? Well, that's unclear. And also, Whyte, it notes in the story, has signed Mike Perez. Rising prospect Moses Itauma is ready to pounce should a belt become vacated. So when he was asked by the Ring podcast of the scenario, he says, yes, of course. All you need is one slip-up or just one belt to be separated from Usyk, and the heavyweight division's back feisty. Obviously, at the minute, Usyk is king, and you just got to wait for him to retire or vacate for someone like me to come and grab them. I'm not naming no names. I said last year I want to get some titles, obviously. I'm taking a step closer to those titles now. I'm not dancing to anyone's tune. I'm just trying to get to something big, maybe a world title, if not somewhere around it. My job's getting into the ring and fighting. Everything else is for my team. And obviously a really good performance not so long ago against Dempsey McKean. Stopped him brutally in the first round. He will be on this upcoming heavy impact card, facing the unbeaten but quite seasoned in terms of years Nelson Heiser. I expect him to win that one, and comfortably. And unfortunately, the fight to save boxing, Michael Hunter versus Christopher Lovejoy, and I had recorded, edited a video, and was yet to put it up, and now I can't because it's been cancelled, and this is apparently due to promoter Don King. And I had thought, when I had heard this fight was made, I actually thought it was an April Fool's joke, but when it was announced, I thought, wasn't Hunter with King? I mean, I know Lovejoy was, and then apparently got shot of him. But you have a situation where this fight is off, and the story here cites that it's been cancelled due to contractual differences between the two fighters and their promoter, Don King. A shame for, I guess, both, but at the end of the day, probably not a fight that should have been made. Terrible preparation for Michael Hunter if he was going to be facing Fabio Wardley or Kubrat Pulev afterwards as part of that WBA order that's currently in place. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.